All right, so let's go ahead and get started then. So, hey everyone, and welcome to our Sparkle Meetup and Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Nikolai Diaz. I'm the business development here for Club Sparkle.
And I'm Christine Reyes. I'm the social media coordinator / brand specialist.
And joining us today is a renowned expert in anti-aging regenerative medicine who utilizes bioidentical hormone replacement and stem cells to reverse the effects of aging. He's authored books, The Vitality Connection, 10 Practical Ways to Optimize Health and Reverse the Aging Process, and The Magic of Stem Cells, Awakening Your Own Healing Power. And with him is not only his business partner, companion, but also his wife, is an experienced therapist integrating spirituality and psychology, specializing in helping couples build fulfilling and romantic relationships. She's published articles on faith and relationship development in reputable publications such as World Religions, News Time, and Marriage.com. So let's please welcome Dr. Michael and Barbara Grossman.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you guys for spending the time. I apologize for the technical difficulties in the beginning, but I really wanted to, obviously you guys have two different backgrounds, but they marry together in a beautiful way. But I first wanted to start off with you, Michael, if that's okay, Dr. Michael. How did you get involved with longevity, like medicine, meditation?
Sure. So back in college, I was totally stressed out trying to get into medical school. Every exam would stress me out. And as soon as the exam was over, I didn't even know if I got an A or an F. I felt great. And I decided after 2 years of that, I had enough. And so I learned to meditate, to be calm and relaxed. And it changed my life. And learning meditation, I became involved with other things that came from the East. You know about things from the East, from China, from India. So I learned Ayurveda and I learned acupuncture. I was one of the first licensed acupuncturists in the United States. 1974, when Richard Nixon came out and let the Chinese come and show us acupuncture. And so I watched it in medical school. It was amazing. I treated a few patients in medical school and I impressed all of my residents. They said, wow, because I had one guy who he had no intestinal activity after his intestinal surgery for like 2 weeks, and they didn't know what to do. I said, oh, well, let's just put a little needle here, a little needle there. And he was fine. Next day, he was fine. So I was always involved with natural medicine. And what came about as it was a medical doctor, I had to learn to integrate traditional medicine with natural approaches. And that was, I was doing that before anybody was. And I've been doing that all along. And so that's my passion, is to integrate those things.
Yeah, and that's where I think the biggest effects come from, is mixing the two, Western medicine and Eastern medicine. They both have their own miracles, but coming together, they make a beautiful couple. So can you tell me about why it's different to be an anti-aging longevity medicine specialist rather than a medical doctor?
Well, yes, it is very different. And so the FDA only requires drug companies, when they have a new drug coming out, to have 6 months or a year of testing. And they can show, no one's dying from it. It seems to be relatively safe for them, and it helps their acute symptoms to be better. Well, the question is, what happens 5 or 10 years later? Well, the FDA doesn't care. That's not their business. Well, that's not exactly true. It's just not their primary concern. So we find out that if you take anti-inflammatories, Advil, Motrin, those kind of medicines, after 5, 10, 20 years, you're going to get really sick from it. It destroys your kidneys. It causes all kinds of stomach ulcers, a lot of other problems. Big problem. A lot of people taking those drugs. So we have medicines for diabetes. Oh, it works good. Look, the blood sugar goes down. Oh, but you're going to die young from it. Well, at least the blood sugar is low while you were dying. That's pretty crazy. So now there's so many of the old diabetic drugs that have been out for 20 years, they figured out, oh, that's not so good for people. Let's not give that to anybody, even though it lowers blood sugar, you're going to die young. Same thing for blood pressure pills. So many blood pressure pills. Oh, some of them are great and some of them not. So it's a real complexity. As a longevity anti-aging doctor, my concern was creating longevity. So I'm not crazy about a lot of prescriptions. There are some prescriptions that clearly you live longer from them, which is good, but that's the minority. Now, herbs don't have that problem. Vitamins and minerals, you can take them for years and they're good. They're natural. It's hard to find the synthetic medicines that make you live longer over a lifetime. That's my job, is to find those that really work for people. But I use lots of herbs and lots of natural things to have people live longer and healthier.
Right. So are there some other examples of natural things that promote longevity? I've been doing, I heard a guy named Dr. Sabi, all these, holistic people that are coming to light that were so popular back then. And now, it's getting much more holistic. At least it feels like that for me. We're coming much more awake to that and trying to get away from big pharma. So what are some natural things that promote longevity?
Well, there's lots of things. So the thing that I do primarily, that's my bread and butter, foundational things, is natural hormones that are in young people. As you get older, you lose them. And it's gradual for men, the loss of natural hormones, but it's real quick for women when they go into menopause. What we find, if you use synthetic hormones, you die younger from heart disease and cancer than if you do nothing. And for years, that was the treatment for traditional doctors, to give these synthetic hormones. But now the research is very clear. Use the natural hormones that are naturally in your body, and you will live longer and healthier than if you do nothing. The research is very clear. So that's foundational. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone for women, for men, just testosterone. And for both of them, we use pregnenolone, DHEA, we use growth hormone releasing factors, very, very helpful, different peptides. These things are natural and they seem to make you feel better. And then longevity, fantastic.
And I have a question for the both of you. So you guys obviously take the Sparkle products, right? So what would you say are the positive effects that the products have had for you guys since you guys are into the natural approach?
Or any specific ingredients
In
that
So
pop
you're
out to
thinking
you?
about the
Yeah.
Sparkle products.
I take them.
Yeah, so there's so many important things in the Sparkle products. One of the products is the trace minerals. In today's foods in the United States, it's very hard to get the trace minerals in the foods because everything is grown with fertilizer, and then you don't get the trace minerals in the foods as much as they were 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It's very, very low. Do you need trace minerals?
Right.
There are different ways to get trace minerals. The Sparkle product is great, that has the trace minerals. I love that product. And it's very, very safe, and it's very effective, and there's no side effects from it. So that's really good. And in terms of the herbs, there are so many herbs in the various Sparkle products, and every herb has its value to it. And some of them, do one thing and some of them do another. There are so many different herbs to be used. One of the important things I think about the Sparkle products is that the herbs that are in the Sparkle products are really working. In America, we have this complexity that herbs don't work. Why do herbs don't work in America? Because nobody checks whether they're really active, whether they're really
Right.
vibrant. If you have some old leaves that have been around for for some years and they're all crusty. It's still the herb. It just is worthless, but you could put it in a packaged product and say, we have this much of this herb and this much of this herb, but it doesn't work because it's not fresh. In Japan and in Germany, they check on their herbs, just like medications. You've got to prove it's really active and it's really working. And that's so important about the Sparkle product. So many Americans think they're taking herbs, but there's not a lot of potency there. Barb, you want to add
Exactly.
something?
Yeah, I take it. I have a very long day. I see a lot of people, and then when I'm finished with a very short break, I'm out at dance practice. I'm a competitive ballroom dancer. And so my day goes from 9:30 in the morning till 9:45 at night. And what gets me through the day is your Sparkle drinks.
Wow, that's big.
So I'm 72 years old, and I have the energy and vitality of a much younger person. Now it helps that I have Michael's hormones, and I'm very active, dynamic, and I feel like I could be 25 or 30. But that's what it brings me.
And they're both great ballroom dancers, guys.
Incredible.
Incredible. So we'll get to that in just a bit, but kind of what you were saying, Dr. Michael, not all ingredients are the same. So like, vitamin C, although you can list that, this is something I learned, working here and learning about the industry, is that yes, the FDA approves of ingredients, but not the quality of those ingredients. So they don't know how good that vitamin C is, but they're just going to list vitamin C. It doesn't say how good an effect that vitamin C actually is.
Yes.
And one thing that you guys are, I've noticed, is you guys are in the love and longevity. So this is kind of getting into you, Barbara. How long have you been a marriage and family counselor? And what do you specialize in? And what kind of training does that include?
Well, I've been in this area. I've been a licensed therapist since 1986. I've seen lots and lots of people. I mean, Michael tracks the numbers because he likes numbers. But
60,000 patient hours.
so,
Wow, that's amazing.
She's really good at what she does.
well,
You're over the 10,000. You're over the 10,000. You're a professional now.
Yes. There's a way that, first of all, people are dying of loneliness here in the States. Not being connected is not a small matter. It is essential to your well-being. And for the most part, the quality of the culture is more thinking than feeling. So even if you do get married, you have a period of time before you run into each other, where a woman wants more feelings in the relationship, and she's emotional about it, and the man is a thinker, and so you have a challenge to integrate your personalities. It's not comfortable to go through that crossroad together, but if you understand that it's inevitable, it's developmentally important. What we have to learn from each other in relationship and committed relationships is awesome. And to integrate your personalities opens you up to life wisdom, because you can't know the truth unless you can both think and feel at the same time. And so the typical couple, you have a woman, nagging and complaining that her husband doesn't care, which of course he does, but he's not expressing it in her language. And a man who feels like his wife is irrational and impossible. It's really a golden invitation, engraved even, to grow. And so, Michael and I have experienced it in our own lives. I've had many mentors in my life. I have sought for mentors, but there's no one I have learned more from than Michael in partnership. There's just so many ways to develop your personality and your character. You are fully accountable. There's no better way. It's, spiritually, it is a journey and a path to enlightenment.
Although you guys are from different, did you want to pass?
Yes, really quickly, because there's a lot of talk about this on social media these days, and a lot of people are giving their advice, their opinion, which is great, but a lot of them are obviously coming from personal experiences, but you guys are experts in what you do. You guys have been doing it for years. My question is, how do you guys handle communication, or how did you handle communication when you were experiencing the problems that people are experiencing today?
Well, the short answer to that question is we got stuck and we reached out for help. And fortunately, we had wise people in our lives. And so we learned the way most couples learn. We had to go outside of what we know in order to, you know, at least be supported in respecting each other and really listening to each other. Before that, you know, we were just really closed off and it was painful. We had 2 children and a lot at stake. And so when we got on the other side of that, we realized what a contribution it is to help people learn how to listen and talk with each other. You can't talk to your partner like you talk to a buddy. It's a different kind of conversation. And you know, you need to be able to organize yourself and really connect up with what you feel, what you think, and what you want, and speak respectfully. And we teach couples on how to do that. And they get on the other side of that growing, you know, stretching time. And it's a miracle. But you have the same 2 people, their bodies look the same, but they're in a completely different place.
Well, we appreciate you being so honest and sharing that with us about you guys being personally stuck, because, you know, some people shy away from that as an opportunity to help other people once you resolved it for yourselves.
Right.
But, you know, that's a great thing to make your message. Kind of like if you got cancer and then you got over it, you want to like be an advocate for cancer prevention, all that. And you guys come from different backgrounds, love and longevity, but you found a great way to marry the 2 industries together as they do relate to one another. So how important is a romantic relationship for longevity?
Well, Michael will answer that one, but I wanted to say I was so impressed with the learning that we experienced that a part of my PhD dissertation was about how women develop differently than men. Their life cycle development unfolds a little differently. And so there's an inevitable kind of, we crash into each other where we're in different places at the same time. And so there's really nothing wrong with our marriages when we get to that uncomfortable place, but it's an inevitable function of just a natural evolution of men and women. We don't develop the same because most women become mothers at a certain time. They stay connected. They don't invest in their you know, intellectual development, and they pick up on that after their children are at a certain age. And so it's easy to lose connection with our partner for a period of time. And if you don't know that, you take it personally and you think your partner's a jerk or some other terrible word. And that's, you know, real unfortunate because, you know, most couples have good intentions and want good things for each other and their families. But your question for longevity is Michael's area.
So the value of a personal relationship is not just that you learn and you grow spiritually, but there's this Harvard study that has been going on for like 80 plus years, looking at the effects of your personal relationships on longevity. They actually started the study. They were just looking at what makes you live longer. And they were studying people who were graduating Harvard and measuring them over the next 50 years, and people who lived in the poor community around Harvard who were just poor people, and they measured them over the next 50 years. And they wanted to see what makes people live longer. Great study, and they expected to have cigarette smoking and obesity and exercise and all this stuff. The most important factor in longevity after the age of 50 is the quality of your personal relationships. So here, if I'm an anti-aging doctor, I have to get my patients to have quality personal relationships. I can't just have them eating healthy and exercising and taking all these vitamins. That's a piece of it, but you can't ignore the quality of personal relationships.
Yeah, it's an overall well-being approach they have to do. It can't be just one and done. And that's the thing, it's about balance. And a lot of things you guys talk about is balance, but you guys don't use that word, but it is about balancing your relationship, balancing how you feel, your emotions and all that. And that's what our products are also based off, bringing your body back to balance so that it can heal itself, because it's an amazing thing. What is the chiropractor slogan they do? Like the energy that created itself can heal itself.
Oh, yeah.
The energy that created the body can heal the body, I think is it. So it's like you just got to give it the right resources to do so. So when it comes to you, Barbara, can you tell us about the study that showed the most important factor in longevity is the quality of personal relationship?
You know, it started with the Harvard class of in the 1940s. Actually, John F. Kennedy was part of that study. He was a Harvard student at the time.
Wow.
And
Crazy.
it included, there was interviews and medical evaluations of each of the participants, and interviews with their family members. So they got feedback from many different angles of each person. And because Harvard students at the time were from the most successful elements of our society, they extended the study to include the Boston neighborhoods around it. So it's a multi-class, multi-racial, multi-everything study. And everybody got their, blood work and their urine tests and their family interviews and all of that every year. And they did a complex assessment of all the information, and that's how they derived that relationships was the single most factor in connection with longevity.
Every time I hear about those studies, because it's so long, 50 years, you're like, oh my God, how much did they spend to get a 50-year study? That must have been very expensive.
Well, that's what you can do if you're Harvard. So that's
Actually, I think it's more like it's an 80-year study.
yeah, that's true. It's gone on for 80 years. Yeah.
It must be in the millions then.
With
It's
all
had-
those go ahead.
Go ahead, Barbara. Sorry.
It's had 3 directors. It's that long, and they've exceeded any one person's lifespan.
Wow.
With all those studies and researches, why do you guys think, maybe this is like a common sense question, why do you guys think we still struggle to this day with relationships and personal relationships with ourselves too, but relationship with other people as well?
Interpersonal.
So I believe it's because our culture is not balanced. First of all, we value individuality. Everyone is a self. We're invested in ourselves. We have a lot of confidence, or even if we don't, it's all about self. This is not our society in recent time does not accentuate belonging and connection. And so we come with our, self-centered personalities. And, and if we don't consciously, intentionally develop skills, we end up by ourselves, actually. So, it's a transition in our culture. In the 50s and the 40s, before that, we were probably too much about belonging and being for each other. And so I think there was a desire to develop this individuality, but we've gone too far in the other direction. We need to integrate both.
Overcompensated.
That gave me full body chills. So that's a great answer.
So
And so
What-
we have another issue that occurs in marriage now compared to 100 years ago. So in marriage today, at least here in America, and I think in Japan also, marriage is so different than it was 100 years ago.
Right.
For several reasons. One reason would be at the age of 50, you were going to be dead real soon. So you weren't going to live to be 80. So there's less complexities in your life. Now, when you're 50 years old, well, you got another 30 years of trying to figure this out and make this work. And so the marriage, you've got to know how to change. Your kids grow up, no longer at home. You have a different marriage than when your kids were there. So they didn't have that big problem back then. Then the other thing that's happened is you now have the husband and wife both working. It's not common to have the woman stay out of work for a long period of time. Maybe she stays home with the kids for a few years, but they're working. So husband and wife are both working. So the dynamics of being in a marriage is much more complicated. It used to be simpler. The wife was at home. She dealt with the home, the laundry, the shopping, the kids, and cooking. And the husband was gone all day, and he came home to come home to be with the family after work. Now it's different. It's a whole different complexity. So these different complexities put pressure on marriages that weren't there in the past. And now you can get divorced so easily. 100 years ago, I'm sure in Japan it was the same way. I don't really know, but I assume it was just not common to get divorced in the United States 100 years ago. It was a big deal.
Taboo.
And so now, and now it doesn't work. Marriage is not working. It's been 2 years. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated thing. And the opportunities for spiritual growth in a marriage now is much greater than it was 100 years ago, because you constantly press each other. Barbara and I are always pushing each other to grow and to develop. I love writing books and doing these lectures. Barbara just likes sitting home and reading and writing her stuff. But I press her to do this. She wouldn't public speak if it wasn't for me pushing her to do it, but she learns to do it. Would I do ballroom dancing without Barbara sort of pressing me to do it? No, I don't think so, but I love it. But
Michael, I thought that was all you. I thought you got Barbara into it.
No, not really at all.
But Michael loves competition, so that hooked him.
It's got to set it up like a competition. There you go.
So we do competitions all over the country.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So Dr. Michael, were you fully open to dancing when she first asked you to try it out, or was this something that she had to convince you?
I didn't mind taking lessons and doing a little dancing. But when my baseball team, when I was 61 years old, that I made up, I was my team, a softball team, they told me I was getting too old. They were all 40-year-old kids, and I'm 61, and you don't run fast anymore. And you kind of like hurt us a little when we're playing. And so we only want you to play a half a game now. And I said, I think I'm going to just let you guys play. And then I had to do something else. So Barbara said, you want to dance? I said, I'll do it if we're going to do competitions, if we really get serious about it, just to dance and socially. And she said, fine, let's do it. So that's what we did.
I love that. And the reason why I ask is because I think it's important to dive into each other's interests too, wouldn't you say? Even if it's not something you're completely open to, it's important.
Right. We've shared a lot of things over the years. Michael was thoroughly involved in Eastern religions and spirituality. And I have my background is in the West. I've, experienced, multiple denominational interests, plus I have a theology degree. And so we kind of married both traditions, and we found, wisdom and truth that are consistent in both parts of our culture. And it's lovely to see how truth is truth everywhere. And that's been a very enriching experience for us. And we've enjoyed connecting with lots of different communities around, what does it mean to be human, and what's the possibility of a human life, and what does God want from us?
But what I'll add in this conversation, which is really interesting, is that when Barbara and I were having our difficulties, life difficulties, how old were we? We were in our 30s. And Barbara and I were really having a lot of upsets. We got mentors to help us. And I reached a point where I said, listen, I'm not going to get divorced. I'm not going to have my kids be in a divorced lifestyle. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this marriage work. It was a mess. The marriage was a mess. And I said, I'll do whatever it takes. So I let Barbara know that. And so she says, well, we have to do all these different courses. And she had all these psychological classes and courses and mentors. And I would never have done that. I would just go into some cave and meditate for a couple of years. That would be my way of doing things. But she had me do all these courses and classes. I would never have done that. but it pressed me to grow in a way that wasn't natural, but I did it because I wanted to make the relationship work. And I'm all the better for it now. And that's what happens in relationship. You have to make the relationship more important, as you're describing, more important than your own personal wants and desires. It has to be bigger than that. So if you
Right.
make the relationship bigger, you'll open yourself up to grow in ways that otherwise you wouldn't grow. And so I am a much wiser, deeper, more compassionate human being than I would have been if I was left to myself.
Right. I love that.
So we also talk about, how love impacts your overall well-being, and we're all about health, well-being, wellness. So can you talk about how love does affect, or a positive relationship doesn't have to be necessarily love? How does it impact our immune system and our ability to fight off diseases? Because that's very in line with what our products do as well. But again, like you said, you need to attack it from all angles.
Well, that's a big question. It's clear that stress is the big negative for our health and well-being. And stress, has a value. If a lion is running after you, you want to get away as fast as you can. So when the lion runs after you, you shut off your immune system. You don't need that. If the lion's eating you, you don't need to fight off infection. You shut off your digestive system. You don't need that. If the lion eats you, you don't have to digest your food you just ate. If the lion is running after you, you shut off your higher intellectual functioning. You don't need to worry about the money that's in the bank if you're going to be eaten in the next few minutes. So the stress is set up to just focus you and that tree you're going to jump into so that the lion doesn't eat you, and everything else gets shut off. So what happens today is that the lion is there all the time. The stress doesn't go away. It stays with you, and then everything else is shutting off. The immune system, your brain, your digestive system, everything gets shut off, and you're just left feeling stressed. And that's the big factor. And there's many different ways to deal with stress. You want to eat healthy. You want to take these herbs that balance the physiology, but you got to have relationships that work. So we teach people how to be in a loving romantic relationship. And it takes skills to do that. And you've got to have the right skills so that the stress doesn't build and build and build.
Yeah, and so we talk a lot about how the positive effects of a good relationship. Can we talk about some of the negative effects from a toxic or abusive relationship and how that affects our health and well-being?
That's huge. That's huge. So there's a gradation of these negative relationships. So when you talk about abusive relationships, that's something you have to get out of. And so that's a big problem that people have to deal with, that to be able to figure out how to get out of that relationship. But for most people, the relationships are not so that they're abusive. They're just like there all the time. And what we do in our relationship classes, we teach people skills that allow you to dissolve the stressful things that are going on. And I'd say 90% of relationship upsets you can deal with by just learning skills. In the beginning, if someone comes to see Dr. Barbara, she has to work with them so they can talk to each other without screaming, and they can start listening to each other. But once they get past that phase, then they can take our classes and courses where they can sit down and learn how to make requests of each other, how to listen to each other without interrupting. And then all that stress begins to settle down. You want to say something?
Yeah, there's also the matter that when we marry and we connect deeply with someone in a long-term commitment, in many ways that kind of bond repeats the connection we have with our parents. Because there's no other bond that's as deep as a committed relationship. And what happens inevitably is we run into the injuries that we re-experience the injuries we had in childhood and get reactivated. And we don't even know we have these injuries because we were young, we weren't reflective, we just, we survived childhood, we got through school, it's a relief, but we experience those hurts in our adult relationship. And it's quite disorienting because we're not expecting it. We're expecting, true love, bliss, and romance forever. And so, each of us, Michael and I, and we're no different from any other couple. We experience the hurts of our childhood, and we had to learn how to, share the experience so that we understood what we were dealing with, and we need our partner to understand our injuries. We need to understand it ourselves, and we need to know what behaviors heal it. And so, your relationship with your partner has the potential for healing your history of wounds. It's quite remarkable. And we want that for our couples. And we include that in our program. We teach our couples, we hold their hands while they have those kinds of healing conversations with each other. And if they don't remember what hurt them, we have a way of connecting up with those old wounds from childhood, because we all have them, not because we had bad parents, but because childhood is like that.
Right.
We're not entirely understood, or we don't know how to represent ourselves, or we weren't cooperative, and our parents came down heavy on us. We have, there's lots of things, or we lost a parent and we're afraid of loss. There's all different ways where we get hurt from our childhood, and we're so powerless as children that it really sticks deeply.
Yeah, and I had a really good quote from I don't know what it was. I think it was, I'm going to butcher the name, so I'm not even going to say it, but it pretty much said, at some point in your life, it's not about the learning. When you're growing up, you're learning all this stuff. At some point, it's about the unlearning all the things that don't work for you, all this negative false beliefs, all these internal blueprints that you built that don't serve you. So is that kind of what you were referring to, these inevitable transitions in our life that we're going to have to work through no matter what? In the book that you wrote, The Ageless Love, in Ageless Love?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, I share my own story. My mother divorced my father when I was 2 months old. I lived without a father till she remarried, and then I had a fabulous father. And so I have spent most of my life believing in loss, like a that's my stand about life. I expect loss. And, part of my experience being married to Michael and having him understand my sensitivities, I used to have him in a day before there was cell phones. I used to make sure that I used to ask him to find a phone, no matter how hard it is, call me when you get to your destination and tell me you're still alive, because that's how crazy I was about loss. And so that's like a belief system, that I didn't, to make fun of myself, it's instead of believing in God, I believed in loss. And I had to be slowly healed from that through Michael's, sensitivity and willingness to cooperate with my requests. It was very healing and beautiful. We all have those things. That's just my little story, but it was a big thing for me. And we all have those injuries that actually, alter the way we understand reality. And so we have to untangle them and heal that so that we can feel peaceful and receive and give the love we want.
And so
for all the broken hearts, go ahead, Dr.
I
Michael.
wanted to add that the thing that happens over a lifetime is that you do move back and forth in different ways of growing, inevitably. So it starts when you're on your mother's breast and you're 6 months old. It's just you and the mother. You're totally attached to the mother. And then you get to be 2 years old, and what happens then? You start saying no. You want it your way. You want that candy. And you're having a little bit of a tantrum because you're separated from mother a little bit, and you're more into your own self. Get to be 6, 8, 10. You love being part of the family, one of the kids and part of the family, and you love it, and you're attached to the family, and you feel that closeness. And then you get to 13, what happens? You've had enough of the family. You want it your way again. You know everything when you're 13 and you want it your way. You want it that's how it is. And then you get to be 20 something, you're falling in love and you love being part of this love relationship, part of this create a new family. And then you get to be 40 and then you had enough of this closeness, your own thing again. You want to be separate a little bit. And that's natural. And then you get to be 50, 60, and you feel like a grandparent, you love being close again. It doesn't stop. But these movements, feeling close, feeling separated, are natural. So that just aggravates all of your own past history stuff. It kind of makes it, reactivates it. And so one of the secrets that we talk about in our classes for romantic partnership, falling in love forever, is don't expect a smooth ride in a romantic partnership. It's not designed for that. So once you have the big picture in mind, you don't think your partner is like this crazy person that you have to get out of that. Now, maybe they are crazy and maybe they're beating you up and hurting you, then you have to get out. But mostly they're just going through their thing. Anyway, that was my
So for all the people that are heartbroken and we really are in a need of love and connectivity, especially after a horrific isolation event like the pandemic.
Right.
So what are those 3 secrets to falling in love forever? I know you mentioned one, not to expect a smooth ride in a romantic relationship. What are the other 2?
So the second one is, if you're not listening to your partner without interrupting, then you're not really listening. And we teach a skill in our classes, how to listen to your partner for 3 to 5 minutes without interrupting, just really seeing how they see the world differently than you, not trying to be right, not trying to score points, but just actually listen to how they see the world. And then each partner does that. That is difficult in the beginning, but once you get used to it, it is just really, really deeply connecting for the partners to really understand each other. Because men and women are different. There's a lot of things going on today that says men and women are the same. Well, they're the same in a lot of ways, but they're different. Their hormones are different. Their brain chemistry is different. The way the brain actually structures itself is different. And you have to listen to your partner because they experience the world differently than you do. And it's not right or wrong. It's just different. And that's secret number 2.
What's secret number 3?
There was one more, right?
Yeah.
Barbara, do you want to take that?
I don't remember what it is. Secret number 3. You can tell them secret number 3 is don't expect.
Oh, because in light of the stages Michael outlined, don't expect a smooth ride.
No, don't expect your partner to.
Oh, don't expect your partner to automatically know what you want. You have to ask, and ask nicely. And fundamentally, we teach couples how to talk to each other. And it, as a general statement, what I would want to say is that most people aren't so good at talking from their heart. So you want to speak, your thoughts, but in a sensitive, heartful way. And so we cultivate that. We have different exercises and practice models for partners to learn how to speak with each other. And it makes such a difference.
And when you're making requests of your partner, we have a whole structure for that, so that you have to learn how to do it in a way that doesn't create a fight, doesn't create an upset, but rather just it would really make me happy, and you tell them something or whatever. And so we teach the partners how to do that for each other. And that's so important. And it's not something that you just grow up knowing how to do. It's a skill set. So we love teaching these skill sets to people, and it changes their relationships dramatically.
And I'm so happy that people like you guys are around, because it's true what you said, Dr. Michael, that you don't grow up knowing these things. You have to learn them as adults, and you struggle in relationships and you realize like, oh, wow, I'm really not equipped to build healthy relationships
Right.
for a lot of people.
Right. And we have two kinds of classes that we have for people. We have classes that are a video class that you take 3 video classes, and it has homework each class, and you learn some skills, and there's like 5 relationship challenges, and you can take in some different classes for those different types of challenges. And so that's something that your listeners can go on agelesslovequiz.com, and you can take a quiz, and that points you in a certain direction. And that's one really effective way of doing things through these video courses. And then the other way we have live Zoom classes where we have a bunch of couples and we all share together, and we lead you through a variety of different lessons and skill sets, and we have you practice them and then come back to the group. And people like the group because you can feel much more comfortable that, oh, look, everyone's got these kind of problems. It's not just me. And that makes people feel, wow, that makes
Isn't
sense.
it funny?
Yeah.
We share in like demise, and I don't know why. There's like comfort in it. What is that? Comfort in forget what it is. It's like almost like you do bad at a test in your math class, and then you find out that everybody else got a D on that test too. You're like, oh, okay, it wasn't that bad. It was the test. It wasn't me.
Right. That's right. Yes.
So we will get to actually the exclusive offers, the special offers that you're giving to the Sparkle family, and we appreciate that. But one last thing is, I just wanted to pick your guys' brain. If this was a video you knew was gonna go out to the rest of the world, what is one piece of advice you would give everyone?
Well, I would want to invite your audience to understand their relationships are an invitation to grow, and take the opportunity to not stay stuck, or not even to accept a okay relationship, but to really inspire themselves to grow and make the most of the opportunity of love and connection and exploring life together. And it does take an effort. There's things to learn, but you want to be a good tennis player, you need a coach, and you need to practice, and you need technique. Anything that's worthwhile learning takes a learning process, and it's not automatic. My parents had a great marriage. I watched it, but that doesn't mean I knew how they did it. I had to go learn it for myself. So I encourage people to take responsibility for where they're at, and go find other people who can lead them out of their trapped place into something more delicious and growth provoking.
And what I would like to add is that longevity is a chain link kind of a thing. So you have a chain that has many links in it. Some of the links may be very strong and some may be very weak. People like to work on the strong ones and make them stronger. So if they're good at exercise, they make them stronger. But they may be terrible eaters, or maybe they don't take any herbs, or maybe they have terrible relationships. But you've got to work on whatever the weakest link is. The thing that you would like to do least is probably the one you need to do most. So I encourage you to work on whatever is the weakest link in your longevity. Well, one of the things that we haven't talked about, I do a lot of work as a medical doctor in helping people have normal sexual function. As men and women get older, 50% of men have sexual dysfunction when they're 50. 70% of men have sexual dysfunction when they're 70. You're going to be living a long life, and it's very important to maintain that intimacy in your romantic relationship. And I do a lot of things that help that Gainswave and P shots and exosomes and stem cells. It really repairs that area of working. But you have to work on whatever is weak. If the hormones are weak, you got to repair them. If you're not eating good, you got to change the way you eat. If you're not exercising, so there's many things to work on, and work on the weakest link.
And so that's exactly what I was saying. Like, you guys say balance, you guys promote that, but you guys don't use it in that way. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So exactly, you got to work on those. But thank you guys again so much for spending the time. We really appreciate you guys doing this little podcast with us. We're going to go ahead and go into your promotions on your website. And if you have anything else to say after them, please feel free to. So if you guys are interested, anybody listening, to connect with the Grossmans for consultation, coaching, relationship guidance, or you could just want more information, you can do so by visiting their website. They have two websites. One is for the relationship side, fallinginloveforever.com. And the other one is medical and cosmetic side that Dr. Michael was talking about, and that's ocwellness.com. So we should be putting that in the chat right now. But also, I mentioned earlier, the Grossmans are putting in a special offer. We appreciate that for the Sparkle family. Thank you so much. So he's offering a 15-minute consultation with Dr. Michael Grossman with no charge. And all you got to do is call or text Maureen Michael. That's 949-306-2343 to make an appointment. So that's a free 15-minute consultation right there, guys. They also are offering a special for video classes. These are the video classes to overcome challenges in your romantic relationship that they were mentioning earlier. They have homework and all that. They have group classes. And they also have a 2-minute quiz that you could take. It's at agelesslovequiz.com. And two people of many talents. Not only are they dancers, anti-aging family therapists, they also wrote a book. So for free chapters to go visit that book, it's agelesslovebook.com. You guys threw in a lot, guys. So the last thing is you can sign up for their live Zoom class sessions for special prices. So just reach out to them, head to their website, ocwellness.com or fallinginloveforever.com, and they have a group coaching tab. Just go ahead and click that and submit the form there to find out more. So if you're interested and want to learn more, again, please contact them. 949-636-6113 is another number. That's not Maureen Michaels. And please don't forget to tell them Club Sparkle sent you. Did I miss anything? Anything else to talk about the classes, what you guys do there?
I think you're good.
We wish your audience great love.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's same to you.
Appreciate you guys.
All right.
So we do these events, guys, every month. And you can always visit the events tab on our USA website to register for those upcoming events. It's clubsparkle.com/events. Go ahead and visit it in our comment section. And our next event, we're going to actually be highlighting some success stories from our loyal community, health products, income testimonials, all highlighting our most loyal customers and followers. So if you have someone that's interested, please bring them to that next event on August 8th. That's at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But that's all we have for you guys today. You can always reach out to us at our number, 872-SPARKLE. That's 872-7553, or support@clubsparkleusa.com. You can also connect with us on all social media at Club Sparkle USA. But again,
Quickly, all of the information for Dr. Michael and Dr. Barbara Grossman's are in the chat.
so please visit that so you don't have to try to type it in. From what I said, I know I went really quick. It's a lot of information, but thank you, Grossmans, for joining us again. We really appreciate it.